Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at something that you might not think about when you think about big economic growth. And that is employee health. We're not just talking about gym memberships here. We're going deep into a 2025 report called Thriving Workplaces from the World Economic Forum and the McKinsey Health Institute. And get this, investing in employee health could unlock trillions in economic value. And where you work and even who you are can impact your well-being at work.
Yeah. What's really interesting here is how this report looks beyond, the benefits of good health for just the individual and connects it to a company's bottom line and even to the global economy.
Okay, so let's get into the numbers. The report estimates a whopping $11.7 trillion in potential global value from making employee health a priority.
Yeah, that's not a typo. Trillion with a T. And this breaks down into some key areas like reduced employee turnover,
Yeah.
fewer sick days, less of that present but not really working thing. We'll get into that a little bit later. And improved productivity and talent attraction. It's really like this ripple effect of good stuff happening.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting to me. I always thought the biggest cost savings would be from healthcare costs. But the report actually highlights productivity and something called presenteeism as the biggest factors.
That's right. Healthcare savings are definitely a part of it. But think about this. Presenteeism is when you're at work, but you're not really working at your best. Because of health issues, you're there, but you're not all there. Your mind might be foggy, your energy low, or you just can't focus. And this can be because of physical or mental health challenges.
So you're basically there, but not really there. I get why that would impact a company's success.
Exactly. Now the report paints a kind of mixed picture when it comes to the current state of workforce health. Globally, only 57% of employees who were surveyed reported feeling good in terms of their overall well-being. So that's mental, physical, social, and even spiritual.
Less than 60% are thriving. That's a little concerning. And even more interesting is how this varies by industry. I was ready to bet that physically demanding jobs would report lower well-being scores.
It seems logical. But it's not always the case. Construction, for example, was one of the top industries for good holistic health and low burnout, alongside things like human resources, administrative and support services, education, and engineering.
Okay. So much for stereotypes. But here's what I found really eye-opening, the differences in employee health across different demographics.
Yeah, that's an important point. The research consistently shows that certain groups report having worse health outcomes. Women, LGBTQI plus individuals, younger workers, neurodivergent employees, and those with lower education levels or incomes. This keeps coming up in research, and we have to look at it.
So we're seeing a pattern here, not just one-off situations. What does this tell us about the systems in place that might be leading to these disparities?
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How are things like workplace culture, societal biases, and access to resources maybe contributing to these differences? It's not about blaming anyone. It's about recognizing that a one-size-fits-all approach to employee well-being just isn't going to work.
We need to see those differences and find solutions that actually address the root causes, not just the symptoms.
Exactly. This isn't about offering a yoga class and calling it a day. It's about creating workplaces where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
All right. So we've established that employee health matters for people and for business. But what can we actually do about it? Does this report just give us a bunch of doom and gloom? Or are there things we can actually do?
It's not all doom and gloom, thankfully. The report lays out 6 core principles for creating workplaces that are healthier. And it's not just about being nice, it's about investing in a smart way. That benefits everyone.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me about these principles.
First, you have to understand the current state of your employees' health and the potential value in investing in that. It's kind of like giving your whole organization a health checkup.
So step 1 is understanding the situation.
Exactly. Then, it's all about making sure those initiatives are sustainable. It's not about those one-time programs that fade away. It's about building well-being into how the company works, the DNA of the company.
It's about making real change, not just checking boxes. What else?
The report also says that it's important to test things out and see what you can learn. Don't be afraid to try out new programs to see what works best for your specific employees.
So it's a process of always getting better, not just putting a program in place and hoping it works out.
Exactly. And you have to track important metrics to see if you're successful. This helps you see what's working, what's not, and make a good case for why you should keep investing in employee well-being.
It's about showing the return on investment for these well-being initiatives. What else should we be thinking about?
The commitment of the leadership is absolutely essential. Real change has to start at the top. If the leaders aren't fully on board and being role models for healthy behavior, it's going to be a tough road.
They need to actually do it, not just talk about it. So it's about setting the example from the leadership down.
Precisely. And finally, it's about weaving employee health into the company culture. This means making well-being a part of everyday work life, not just something you think about every now and then.
So it's about creating an environment where employees feel supported, valued, and like they can take care of themselves.
That's the big picture. And the report goes really deep into all of this.
Okay, so we've got this framework for making healthier workplaces, but what does that actually look like in real life? Let's move on and explore some examples of companies that are doing this well. Welcome back to the deep dive. So we've talked about how a healthy workforce is good for everyone, good for people and good for business. But we've also seen some concerning differences in who's actually thriving at work. Now, the good news is this isn't just a problem that needs fixing, it's an opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. And this report lays out a way to take advantage of that opportunity. Remember those 6 core principles we talked about? Well, the report actually gives us real-world examples of companies that are using those principles.
Okay, let's get to those examples. I want to see how these principles go from ideas to real action.
One company that really stood out was Novo Nordisk. They're a healthcare company. And they're really going above and beyond to deal with employee stress.
Okay, I'm interested. What are they doing about it? Stress is just kind of a given at any job, right?
You'd think so, right?
Yeah.
But Novo Nordisk isn't just accepting it as something that has to happen. They're actually measuring stress levels through these regular global employee surveys that focus on stress levels and mental health.
Okay, so they're figuring out how their employees are actually feeling. But collecting all that data is only useful if you actually use it.
And that's where it gets really interesting. If a team says they're feeling super stressed, the manager doesn't have to handle it all alone.
Yeah.
They get help directly from organizational psychologists who give them training and tools to build a healthier work environment.
So they're not just pointing out the problem, they're giving solutions. I like that. It's about giving leaders what they need to support their team.
Exactly. It's being proactive, not reactive.
Hmm.
Another company that caught my attention was On, the sportswear company. They've seen incredible results from putting money into employee well-being.
Sportswear and well-being, that makes sense. What are they doing that's so special?
Well, they teamed up with a company called Kind Health to make a self-care library for their employees. This library is packed with things like guided meditations, relaxation techniques, even coaching sessions and workshops, all focused on making people feel better.
It's like giving employees a set of tools to take care of their own mental and emotional health. They can take charge. They don't have to wait for some company-wide program.
Yeah, you got it. And it's definitely working. Over half of their employees are using the program, and they've calculated that they're getting back almost 12 times what they put in. That's a pretty strong argument for putting well-being first.
Wow, that's amazing. It just goes to show that investing in employee well-being isn't just the nice thing to do, it's also really smart for business.
For sure.
Mhm.
What about industries where people are known to work crazy hours and have a lot of stress? Can this stuff really work in those places?
I was just thinking the same thing. Like, what about the financial world? Can you really put well-being first when you're working all the time?
That's a great question. And Swiss Re, their reinsurance company, and they're showing us that it actually is possible. They're taking this really interesting approach, focusing on something you might not expect, metabolic health.
Metabolic health. That's not what I usually think about when I think about employee well-being.
I know, right? But it's a super important part of it all. Metabolic health is linked to all sorts of chronic diseases like heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. Swiss Re has partnered with a metabolic health center, and they're using this digital well-being platform to create a test program for their employees in the UK.
Okay, so how does it work?
They start by having people take a survey to see what their risk factors are. Then they give them personalized resources, coaching, and even have a program where people can stay at a center if they need more help. It's looking at the whole person, not just the symptoms.
So it's kind of like preventative healthcare, but for work. You catch the problem before it turns into something bigger.
Exactly. And when they're focusing on metabolic health, they're also tackling things like stress, not getting enough sleep, and bad nutrition. All those things that make it hard for an employee to do their best.
It's about seeing that it's all connected. You can't just deal with mental health and ignore physical health. They go hand in hand.
And speaking of that connection between physical and mental well-being, ASICS, another sportswear company, is doing some cool work. on how movement and mental health are linked.
That's a popular topic these days, the whole mind-body connection thing. How are they looking at it?
Their program called Movement for Mind is a really great example of how something civil can make a big difference. They made a series you can listen to with instructions on how to move your body in ways that help your mental health.
So it's like a guided workout, but for your mind.
Exactly. They tried it out with almost 200 people, and the results were pretty amazing. People said they felt much better mentally. A lot of them said they were happier and had more energy. And ASICS has actually made the program bigger so it can reach tons of people around the world.
That's really cool. It shows you don't need these big, complicated programs to make a difference. Sometimes the simple things work best.
You got it. And it all goes back to those 6 core principles we talked about. These companies are showing that when you really get to know your employees, try out solutions, put money into things that last, and create a culture that supports well-being, you can make a real difference, not just in the lives of your employees, but also in your bottom line.
That's a powerful message. And it's exciting to see these companies leading the way for others to follow. Now, we've looked at some great examples, but the question is, what does this mean for you? Let's move on to the last part and talk about how you can take these ideas and use them in your own work life.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've talked about a lot, from why healthy workplaces are good for the economy to the fact that some people are doing better at work than others, and we've even heard about companies that are doing things right. But now, let's make this about us.
Yeah, let's shift from them to us. What does all of this mean for you, the listener, in your own work life?
Right. This isn't just for those big companies with all their fancy programs. It's about each of us taking care of ourselves at work. And it's about knowing that we all have a part to play in making our workplaces healthier, no matter what our job is or what industry we're in.
Okay, so what can we do? What are some actual things our listeners can start doing today to feel better at work?
Well, first, take some time to just think. How are you feeling right now at work? What stresses you out the most? What are you really good at? That honest look at yourself, it's really important.
So it's like what we talked about with companies. They have to understand where they're at. We can't fix what we don't even know is broken.
Exactly. Once you have a better idea of how you're doing, you can start to see those small changes that could make a big difference. Like maybe setting some boundaries around when you work, or taking breaks regularly, or even just talking to your manager about your workload.
Yeah, even those little changes in your day can make you feel a lot better overall.
Absolutely. And remember, you don't have to do it all alone. Talk to your coworkers. Find people who support you. And speak up for changes that could help everyone.
Right, there's power in numbers. If you see something that's not working, say something. You might be surprised how many other people feel the same way.
And don't underestimate what you can do by just being yourself. When you take care of yourself, you show others it's okay for them to do the same.
It's like you're creating a culture of well-being, one person at a time.
That's it. And if you're in a leadership role, remember that what you do matters more than what you say. Be a good example of healthy habits. Support those well-being programs. And create a workplace where everyone feels valued and supported.
Being a leader isn't just about having a title. It's about taking action and getting others to do the same.
That's what it's all about. Making workplaces that help people thrive. It's something we all have to work on together. It starts with each of us taking care of ourselves and then speaking up for change.
Well said. So that wraps up our deep dive into thriving workplaces. We hope you're leaving feeling like you can make a difference.
This isn't about chasing the latest trends or checking boxes. It's about creating a future of work that puts people first. A future where everyone has a chance to thrive, both personally and professionally.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll see you next time.